Yep, 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 yep.
Yes, it's the Finnish football show, and we've got a busy show for you today. I'm Mark Wiltshire. I'm joined by Keke. Hi, Keke.
Terve.
By Mark H. Hi, Mark.
Hey.
And by Rich. Hi, Rich.
Hello.
We're going to be looking at the international qualifiers for the Huuhkajat and the Helmarit, both competing to qualify for upcoming World Cup competitions. We're going to look at the recent result for the women's team and look forward to the imminent games for the men's team. And then we're going to turn our attention to the closing stages of the 2021 Veikkausliiga season. The regular season's just finished, and this is when the league splits into two for this two final series. And for each club, we're going to discuss their position and look at what's been going on around them recently and give our judgment on their prospects for the final position and where they're going to be going into next season. But I thought before we get stuck into the meat of the show, we've got a few shout outs. Rich, you met somebody recently in the UK you wanted to give a shout out to.
Keith Littler, so the other Keith, we say. He's we met at the Finnish school in Kingston, and he's got a daughter who shares a Finnish name with mine, and he's planning on moving over to your neck of the woods-ish in the coming months. So we had a little chat, and he's a listener to the podcast. And hello, Keith, and I'll see you in the cafe on Saturday.
Another escapee from Boris's Brexit Britain. Keith, you're welcome over here. We've connected online as well, so you know where to find me. We also had another donation recently to the Buy Me a Coffee page.
Yeah, Yusso, who after I think he ribbed about my as we talked in one of the previous episodes that I posted a picture of my television online, which is I think 11 or 12 years old. And someone helpfully said, buy a new telly. So he very nicely sent 3 beers towards the telly fund, which in actual fact is going to come out and pay for the Zoom that we use to record these podcasts.
Right, okay, fair enough. Well, that's what it's for. So that's
yes.
Good. Running costs rather than your household appliances.
Yeah, but if Hannah comes down and sees me putting a boot in the TV, you know why. It's because I'm so desperate for a new one.
Good on you, so thanks.
If anybody else wants to donate just 3 beers to the group, you have to nominate the person you don't want to get the beer.
Yeah, there are 4 of us. There are 4, so that would be fairer, I think. I've got a shout out as well because I heard that we've got a listener called Joona. Now his mum is a friend of mine and do some work with her, and she told me that Joona listens to the show. And then has to give his mum a summary of what we've been talking about in each episode. So I hope that you're listening carefully, Joona, and that you give her the update tomorrow. Keith.
While we're on shout outs, I just want to give a nod to Hannah Lindquist, who became our 500th follower over on our Instagram page there. So thanks for the click, Hannah, and I hope you're enjoying all the content over there. So
you're doing good. You're doing good stuff over there. You've grown that quite nicely in quite a short space of time.
We're on 502 now, but I thought we'd give Hannah a shout at being number 500. So
yeah, that sounds good. Let's see who can be number 600 and how quickly we can get there as well. Right, how about if we crack on with the show proper? There's the referee's whistle. And I thought we'd kick off the first half just by looking a little bit at the Huuhkajat squad, the men's national team, to play games against Ukraine and Kazakhstan in about 10 days' time. I think the first game is. So there was a little bit of excitement in our WhatsApp group earlier when you saw the teams. Maybe Mark, if you want to just take us through the sort of goalkeeper and defence and any sort of significant ins and outs.
Yeah, well, I mean, the keepers remain pretty much the same. Saku Eriksson is back in, which is good because he's in good form for his club. He joins Jesse Jarnen and Lucas Hradecki. Did I get the Saku
Yeah, I
Eriksson
mean,
bit right?
I was just chuckling at the good form. It's actually it's unbelievable what that fella is up to at the moment. I think
Yeah.
it's like, including his international appearance in which he saved that penalty. What's it? He's into is it 7 or 8
I think
clean
six,
sheets in a
7 or
row?
8, yeah.
I mean, I'm no mathematician, but that's loads of hours of not conceding a goal.
It's at least 8.
And
Yeah.
actually, he's another handsome goalie to add to your wall of fame there, Keke. Your goalkeeper thing that we were talking about before we recorded.
That's it. That's it. More on that later. But yeah, he's a cracking bloke as well, Saku. He's another one of our Instagram followers, and we've had a little bit of interaction with him over there. And yeah, he's a cracking chap, and really pleased for him getting in the squad, and really pleased that what he's doing there for his club, Malibu in Sweden.
What about the rest of the defence, Mark?
Well, depending on how he plays, Ilmari Niskanen's back. So I mean, he's like previously he was a winger and he got sort of adapted to that wing back role in the 3-5-2. He's been in good form for Dundee. He got an assist against Celtic at the weekend, which I'm sure would have pleased Keke. So yeah, so he's back in. Who else has come back in? I think Robin Ludd's back from injury, and then also. Who else came in?
Granlund came back in at the back, and Ojala.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Granlund and Ojala. That's right. So Granlund's great to see back because he's a sort of traditional fullback, wing back, and I like the look of him. I was sort of afraid for the last couple of squads because he's not been featured. And Juhani Ojala, it's good to see back because he obviously had a bit of drama when he didn't get picked in the Euro squad, and his form for Motherwell. That's right. Whew. Yeah, it's been really good. He scored goals. Like he's keeping clean sheets. He's doing well, and what it shows is that whatever drama there was before doesn't matter because he's been playing well. So he's back in the squad, which is great to see.
Who was left out of the defence? It was surprising.
Well, in terms of surprise, I mean, Daniel O'Shaughnessy's injured. Jere Urnen's injured as well. So, I mean, they're starters. So they're a big loss. And you've got Purusori. I don't think he's injured because he's still without a club. And I guess there's only so much slack he's going to get if he's not playing regularly. He was in the last squad after he left his club. But again, this is another sort of 5 weeks down the line of no match sharpness. So it's natural for him. And Tim Sparv, he's not been named in the squad, but I think there's a suggestion that if he can prove his fitness, because he got an injury, I think it was against Fenerbahce, was it? And he got taken off early, and he hasn't really recovered. He has played a couple of games for Huuhkajat since, but he's not looking very sharp. So there's a suggestion he might be called up if things go well. But Rasmus Schuller is banned for the Ukraine match, so there'll obviously have to be a bit of jiggery pokery there because if Sparv's not there as well, and although as we saw in the France game, he might just name 3 attacking midfielders instead and go that way. So.
Okay, what did you think about the sort of midfield and forward line? Any notable ins and outs?
Well, it's good to see Robin Ludd back, of course. Scored, what was it, in the first minute for Minnesota United the other day. And we all know how good he is, what he can create, little moments of magic. And so it's just fantastic to see him back in the squad. Oni Valakari playing well, scoring again in Cyprus for Paphos. That little AC Milan rumour didn't quite come to fruition just yet, but we'll see what happens when another transfer window opens. But yeah, he's playing well for Paphos there, so good to see him in the squad.
He's waiting for an even bigger club, I reckon.
Yeah. You've got
not Spurs.
No, bigger club.
Yeah.
Kai Karinen and Nisila are still there, so yeah, Nisila, who we spoke about last time, who's really impressed for the Finland team there, and yeah, he's kept his place in the squad. So yeah, I think it's a decent looking midfield, as Mark said. Ilmari Niskanen, he's got that assist against Celtic for Dundee United the other day, and yeah, nice to see him sort of come back in from the cold after his little nightmare in Germany, I suppose. He's gone up to Scotland there, straight into the side and producing the goods, and straight back into the national team. So
I was a bit worried about him, actually. Like, he had those 2 games. I think he scored, did he, in his debut or in his second game? And it looked quite exciting for him because he'd done it coming from a Veikkausliiga team, a bit like Nisila has now. And then he moved, and then he was out. And when all the fun and games of the Euros was going on, he was nowhere to be seen. So it is good to see that if players are playing at the right level and playing well, then Vive is quite happy to bring them back in.
There's quite a bit of creativity in that midfield as well. I mean, you've got Kamara's there, Rasmus Schuller's there. Both of those guys. Well, you know, Rangers are sitting top of the league and they're winning games. It's they're not winning them spectacularly, but yeah, Glenn Kamara's doing his thing. Rasmus Schuller sitting top of the league in the Allsvenskan with Djurgården, and I mean, Rade is regularly getting 8s and 9s out of 10 for Djurgården in that league, and so yeah, he puts a bit of bite into that midfield, and then you got the sort of the creative players. So it's yeah, looks pretty good.
Yeah, and also it looks good because there's new players coming in there, isn't it? Like Nisila has come in fairly recently. Valakari's come in the last year, and are bringing that creativity there, and they seem brave enough to just go for it as well. Mark?
Yeah, they do, and I mean, I think it's good to see that you got young players coming in. It's also good to see, like, so I mean, I was actually a bit worried about Marcus Forss, because since Brentford have come into the Premier League, he's sort of struggled to get minutes. Ivan Toney has looked really good up front for Brentford, but then in the League Cup, was it this week or last week? I guess it was last week.
Yeah.
He knocked in 4 to put them through. So, and he looked really sort of sharp and ravenous. So it's really good to have him back in the side, because as well, Jolle's got, I think he picked up a bit of a knock after he kind of moved on his loan, and Teme Pukki's looking forlorn at Norwich because he's not getting the ball.
They're all looking forlorn at Norwich. That's just the look.
yeah, that's fair. It's fair to say. But we've got young guys who can provide options. And if you look at Nisila, Niskanen, Force, you know, on the pitch for their clubs, they're actually, you know, they're taking the chances when they're getting them.
So Group D at the moment is sitting with France at the top on 12 points from 6, and second Ukraine 5 from 5, third Finland with 5 from 4, fourth is Bosnia-Herzegovina with 3 from 4, and at the bottom is Kazakhstan with 3 points from 5 games. It's so tight. We talked about this last time. So every game matters, and there's now for Finland 4 more games between now and November. So it's everything's there still to play for. And just for the upcoming 2 fixtures, so on the 9th, that's Saturday the 9th of October, is Finland at home against Ukraine in the Olympia Stadion at 7 p.m. kickoff finish time, which is lovely. I do like these 5 o'clock and 7 o'clocks because, you know, I don't have to try and stay awake quite so late. And then on Tuesday the 12th, it's away to Kazakhstan and the Astana Arena. That's at 8 o'clock finish time, so that's quite nice as well. I like that. Okay.
Tricky ties, but we need 6 points.
Yeah, but the thing is, apart from France, all 4 teams will be saying the same thing. They'll all be trying to win it and all expecting they can win, but knowing they've got a challenge against them. So I think it should be fun. Looking forward to it. Okay, let's.
I think the. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I think the Ukraine game, they've said that they're looking to sell 20,000 tickets for the match. So I mean, that'll be the biggest home attendance. Well, assuming they get anywhere near that, that should be the biggest home attendance for a Finland game in 6-7 years,
Mhm.
I guess. Certainly since the stadium closed down, and yeah, that Ukraine game's massive because I think if you can get 3 points off them, I'm saying if, but yeah, going into that, I mean they've drawn every game so far, and that would just give a little bit of both a confidence boost and a bit of a breather as well. So fingers crossed.
Let's Keke's been following a bit of the women's football recently, and I think all of you three watched the most recent game for the Helmarit. So this is Women's World Cup 2023 qualifiers. The finals are played in Australia and New Zealand in 2023. There's nine host cities, 8 in Australia, 1 in New Zealand. And the qualifiers just started. So the game that was played last week was the first game for Finland, and they go for the year round till September 2022. There's 3 groups of 5 teams, 6 groups of 6 teams in the qualifiers, and Finland is in Group A, which is one of the groups of 5. I'm going to shut up and let you three talk about the game last week.
Yeah, I mean it was an absolute cracker, to be honest. The girls kicked off their campaign down there in Turku and came away with a 2-1 win. But to be fair, I think the scoreline was a bit flattering for Slovakia, because I mean Slovakia did score a bit of a wonder goal, but I don't think at any point the Helmarit weren't in control of the game. I mean, they opened the scoring on 37 minutes. Adelina Engman scored with an absolute belter, just a rocket, which nobody was keeping out, and yeah, it just sort of went from there. The second goal came about with some fantastic play from Sani Francis. She was really strong, put in a fantastic cross, and Ria Erling, who's been playing well for FC Rosengård, just nodded the ball back across the keeper and into the net. So yeah, it was a great performance. There was obviously Slovakia got their goal, and then on 77 minutes there was a bit of a dodgy play at the back, but Natalia Guica sort of put in an excellent tackle just to rescue that situation, and and that was pretty much job done and dusted. Amanda Rantanen came on late into the game and had her own thunderous shot that cannoned. I don't know if it was the bar or the post now, but yeah, cannoned off the woodwork on 87 minutes, which would have, you'd have been tough to pick the goal of the game for either Engman's opener or Rantanen's one if that had gone in. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I don't know about you two, Mark and Rich.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fantastic. We had the lion's share of the possession, so I mean, it was all us, but we created quite a lot of chances. The Slovakians just sort of sat deep, and I actually got a bit worried on when they equalised, because it was it was a hell of a goal. So it was a nice individual goal. They found space down the right, cut inside, and then looped across a shot into the sort of far top corner, an absolute perler. But up until then, Slovakia had offered really, really little. I also Natalia Guica was in my notes as well, because she put in a fantastic display at centre back. She was really strong in the tackle and sort of commanding back there. But as soon as Finland conceded, it was less than 5 minutes later that we got back in front, because we just sort of found another gear. So I thought it was really, I thought it was a really, really entertaining game. A lot of good quality, a lot of good finishes in the goals, and it was a real shame for Rantanen that, because the keeper came out, scruffed the clearance, so she turned and swiveled and then knocked it from probably about 40 yards, like towards the empty net, and it just bounced back off the bar. So it was one of those where you're off your seat and you're just begging for it to drop in. But it was a really impressive performance. I thought it was really solid.
What I've been noticing by looking at the fixtures is they seem to have been scheduled away from the men's games. So we've got men's games coming up in 10 days' time, but the next game for the women is in 3 weeks' time. So, and they're a little bit spread out as well. Okay, the next time, 21st of October is Finland are away to Georgia. That kicks off at 7 p.m. Finnish time, and then 5 days later on the 26th of October, they're at home to Ireland. That kicks off at 6:15. But there's not these kind of triple headers or 2 qualifiers and a friendly, and they're spaced out with away from other games. So it's quite possible to make the time to check out some of these games. And I'm going to be a little bit more diligent next time the games come around.
I think that's a deliberate thing from UEFA and FIFA to, while they want to boost the profile of the women's game, it is keeping it separate enough that there's no competition there. And I guess the way the competitions are scheduled, and obviously COVID has affected that, and that's why the Euros have been pushed back a year. But it's nice that there was a good turnout at the game last week, and there is a lot of interest. I mean, the draw for the finals of the Euros are going to be, I think it's the 28th of October up in Manchester. So we'll be doing a little bit about that because Finland are in there. I think it's their 4th appearance at the tournament. So that'll be a nice thing for next summer that the women's team will have. And hopefully by then they'll be in, say, contention for this group. Because as you said, the qualification for it's a bit of a strange one because the group winners go through, and then the second place go into this lottery of a competition with, whereas in like the men's game, for example, they'll just play off against another European team. Here they all get chucked into a pot, and they might end up playing someone from Oceania or Asia or South America or something for these last spots. It's a bit weird, but interesting. I mean, it mixes it up a little bit. So we'll follow that one with interest. But yeah, I mean, Sweden are the big team in the group, and they came second in the Olympics recently. So obviously, they'll be the big challenge, and I guess the game away to them is the end of November. So yeah, that'll be a big test.
The Swedes only edged it past Slovakia, who I think we were really comfortable against, and then the other teams in the group are Georgia, who were there to be basically beaten about, Slovakia, who I think we made light work of, and then the Republic of Ireland, who've yet to play, but also shouldn't really offer that much of a challenge. So at least we get into that we'd be expecting to get into the second round. But I do think, I mean, you never know. It's always nice to play the old enemy, to have a crack at Sweden and see if we can pip them off their perch.
Yeah, and this Group A, it's a bit early at the moment because Republic of Ireland haven't even played a game. But Sweden are sitting at the top with 2 wins from 2, 6 points. Finland second with 3 from 1. Ireland are doing quite well. They've got 0 from 0. And then Slovakia and Georgia are both on 0 points as well. So not really too much you can read into that at the moment. But like you say, by the end of the year, we would have played everyone once, and that gives some more indication.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing we can definitely say about this Helmarit squad is similar to the Huuhkajat is the team spirit's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I don't know if I'm just getting totally suckered in by the media team over there at Palalito or you know what, but yeah, it's all the girls are playing for some of the top clubs. I mean, Sunny Francis there, she's at Real Sociedad in Spain. Our old friend Paula Mulia has just signed for Espanyol in Spain as well. So they're playing for some top clubs. Tini Corpola's at Tottenham. I actually took the kids to go and see them last weekend, and they were lucky enough to have a little chat with Tini, so that was fantastic. And our other previous guest, Emma Koivisto, she's in England as well with Brighton and Hove Albion. So yeah, all the girls are playing in some top leagues, and we obviously wish them well for this qualification. It's a bit weird how we haven't got the last tournament they qualified for out of the way before we're already trying to qualify for the next one. So that's an interesting one. But as Rich said, the draw for that will be held soon, and we'll be trying to get some tickets for those games, I'm sure.
Very good. Okay, I think it's just about half time. So there's the referee's whistle, and let's do a bit of selling. Bear with me 1 second.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I just thought rather than talking about it, we'd just have a little show and tell. And I've gone for the shirt that I'm wearing today. The Finnish Football Show national teams logo with this owl of indeterminate breed and the Finnish Football Show logo on there. The prices are up at full price at the moment. I think we've explained before, this is not our doing. It's the way that tpublic.com works. They set the prices, we put the designs there, and they get printed to order. So we've still got all the different team colours shirts, as well as the national team shirt there. This is blue with white logo. There's also white with a blue logo, and also there's loads of different shirts. Like you can select many different types of. Okay, they're all t-shirts. Let's see.
For the next generation, can I propose the slogan "Indeterminate Breed" for the Finnish Football Show?
So you get a lot of variety there. You can choose your style, you can choose the color, and there's a variety of different logos, and the show makes a little bit of a cut from each t-shirt sold. So if you want to support us and get something for it, then tpublic.com and then search for the Finnish Football Show. You'll find links wherever you're watching or listening. Just look at your phone and you'll see a link just down below for the store. And Rich, maybe you can tell us a little bit about buymeacoffee.com.
So Buy Me a Coffee is a one-off contribution where some very nice people have chucked us a few euros towards, not my tally, but the running costs of the podcast and the website and things like that. See, some of our outgoings include web hosting, Zoom, and stuff. And yeah, it's nice. We did debate doing a Patreon with bonus content and stuff, but we don't want people being in, it's like segregation, isn't it? But it's we're in a position where some generous people have really made a big difference, and many thanks to those who've contributed and also paid for the bar bid of me and Keke at the Denmark game.
I tell you what, Mark, we had a night out in this summer. We didn't dip into the party coffers, did we?
No, I think you kept your hands firmly in your pocket, if I remember rightly.
What is this, the Scottish Football Show? Come on.
Slanderous behaviour. On that note, let's have our regular halftime feature. Do we have a Sipperly this week, Mark?
We do, yeah, we do, right. So this week, I think I'll go for Väligeister, which is Väligeister. There you go, you got to get that right. Which is technically, it means space lane. That's a terrible translation, but it's the bit of the pitch between the wing and the center. In your football boffin terms, it's called the half space in English, and it's like the channel basically between the middle of the pitch and the wing. So if you're going to make a lappy syötä, go back, I'm sure we did that a couple of episodes ago, then if you're going to make a through ball from the midfield to the forward line, you're generally going to put it into the channel. That's the Väligeister. There you go.
Nice.
Very good. And if you want to see how that's spelt properly, then you can have a look in the show notes. I'll be making sure that Mark checks my work before I publish it. Let's crack on with the second half. There's the whistle. And we're going to look at the Veikkausliiga. So let me give you, first of all, a little update what's going on. At this stage, the Veikkausliiga splits. So over the last few weeks, teams have been sort of playing to get that final position after 22 regular games. And now the table splits. The top six play in the Mestaruussarja, the Champions Series, and the bottom six play in the Haastajasarja, the Challenger Series. I'm not quite sure what they're challenging for, to be honest with you, but it's better than saying
avoiding relegation.
Yeah, basically better than saying the relegation series, I suppose.
But then in when this league format was in someone's brain, the seventh place team would participate in the European playoffs.
There was something like that a couple of years ago, wasn't there?
So that was when it first came out. The incentive to finish top of that group was that you go into the European playoffs. But seeing as they're not doing those playoffs this year, it is just being
Stay in the division.
the tallest midget, really, isn't it? So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So what happens now is that the top six all play each other one more time. So that's 5 more games for each team. And the season then ends after 27 games are played. And remind me, Rich, is it so that even if the team that finishes 7th has more points than the team that finishes 6th, it doesn't really change the table at the end of the year?
Yeah, so effectively now there's 2 divisions.
Yes. Okay.
So it's very likely that the team who finished 7th will have more points than probably 2 or 3 of the teams above them, because that's the way it's gone. It was actually quite close at the end of the season. I think the points totals. In fact, at the time of recording, there's still 1 game to be played in the main. So it doesn't impact who's in which group, but it does. I think if you're in the top 3 of the 6, you get 3 home games of the 5. Which is why Hacker are playing tomorrow. They've got that bonus. But they've done the fixtures for the top 6 at the time of recording, and they've given us the very tantalising prospect of cups against Hoikko on the final day of the season on Halloween. So spooky,
nice.
but it's it's nice because I think that. I'm not sure. I mean, in a lot of the big countries in Europe, they try to avoid these title deciders for obvious reasons. But here, I think, was it 2 years ago when Cups won the title and they went to Inter on the final day of the season, and both teams could, in theory, still win the title. I mean, Inter needed to win by a stupid amount, I think, or something like that. But this, as it stands, I mean, Cups are leading on goal difference as we go into the second part of the season. So, with 5 rounds to go, I mean, Hoikko are in really dreadful form, and Cups, after a mixed start, really got going. I think they won something like 13 out of 15 games or something like that. So, if they're still in fighting distance on the last day of the season, it's going to be a really, really big game.
Let's go through the Veikkausliiga table from 1 to 12, and just talk a little bit about where each team currently is, what's been going on there lately, and what we think of their prospects for the rest of the season. And Mark suggested that we give each team a 1-word prognosis for the rest of the season. And I'm going to start with, in first place, Cups, and I'm going to ask the question that came to my mind on Saturday afternoon when I saw that they were first: is how did that happen, Rich? Because as far as I'm concerned, a few weeks ago, maybe longer, Hoikko were like 6 or 8 points clear.
More than that.
Right. Yeah. So answer my question. How did that happen?
In 1 word, simmer.
Okay.
It's a difficult one because Hoikko have clearly, and I mean, they'll admit it, been focusing on Europe, getting into, well, now the Conference League, but their form domestically has been toilet. I think they've now gone 3 home games without scoring. They've lost their last 2. They've had injuries and personnel changes and things like that. But, they've not really had the major problems. They're just literally in a really, really bad run of form. And Cups, they started the season, I'm saying mediocre. They won some games, they lost some games they should have won. But really, once they got going, their form has been excellent, and Europe didn't distract them, albeit they got knocked out in the playoff round. But they've been excellent, and they've lost 2 of their key players in the last few weeks as well, in Rangel and Boateng. So, they're adjusting to that well. Obviously, we've talked about Nisila, has been in absolutely fantastic form. Our WhatsApp group, we had a joke about Tim Varinen signing for him. He's weighed in with a few goals, and obviously the 96-minute winner against Honka last week, which was really vital. So, I mean, to be honest, Hoikko had a massive lead at one point. I think it was double figures.
Okay.
When we're talking sort of end of July, early August, it was double figures. So, yeah, admittedly, a lot of it is their poor form. But Cups have been winning and winning and winning. And, yeah, I mean, they drew their final game, but, yeah, they're top on goal difference now.
I'm not going to let you give the 1-word prognosis for Cups. Mark, what do you think? What's your 1 word for Cups?
For Cups, Kupset. It comes back every year. They always bring a surprise on you. I think Coups are doing really well, but I don't think this is about Coups really. I think it was 11 points at its biggest, the gap from Hoiko, and they've invested so much in trying to make a dent in this Europa Conference League, and they got absolutely drubbed by Fenerbahce, and they were a bit unlucky against Lask, but were never also really kind of in the game. They never got really within swinging distance. And then around those games, they met Hifki, which is, it's never like, if you're not on a good, oh yeah, Hoifko, not Hifki. I have to pay the fine now. Okay, so hang on, let me do the shot. Yeah, so they played in the derby against Hoifko, and that's not a team you want to play if you're not focused. That's not a game you want. And then yeah, they've struggled really to score goals. And last weekend it was against Inter. They were in the game. They kind of created a fair amount, but then I think it was a Yannis Axela mistake that led to the penalty, that led to Petteri Forsell grabbing the only goal of the game. But they've really struggled to sort of find a rhythm, Hoiko. And I think if you look at the top of the table, I mean, Coups are a really good team. Simo's a really good manager. It's good to see Tim Väyrynen scoring goals again. But I do think this is more about Hoiko just losing the plot.
Go on then, Rich. What words to sum up Hoiko?
Can I say Devon Lock? Would that translate into Finnish?
So like falling at the final hurdle.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
again, final hurdle. There's still 5 games to go, but yeah, they've really. I mean, they should have had the title wrapped up by now.
In third place is Inter on 39 points. Looking at the top goal scoring charts, they've got 2 players in the top 10. I don't know if anyone's noticed this. Is it a particularly low scoring season, or there's not, like, I was looking at the top scorers, and last year Roope Riski, after just 22 games last year, had 16 goals. This year it's Benjamin Chalman at Inter after 22 games with 10 goals. Which means that somehow Asiko have got 2 players in the top 6, but they're all in single figures other than Chalman.
Yeah, I mean, Chalman doesn't really play. He's not like an out-and-out striker either. He sort of sits either in the hole, drops off, or plays sort of attack in midfield. So I mean, yeah, it is an odd season. Again, I think that speaks a bit to Hoiko being absent. I think Jervis he's a striker, right? He plays like
Plays kind of wide right of 3 up front. So there's normally Tuko in the middle or another striker.
Yeah, so that's sort of the weird thing, which is that if I look at that top scorer list, there's not really a striker in there, like, because the next one's Nisila. You know, like you know what I mean, and it's been a very odd season in that respect. For Roope in particular, he's not getting a lot of the service, and then he's not playing 90 minutes every week because he's being rested and taken off for European games. Keke.
Yeah, I was just going to say about Inter Turku. I think obviously I think it's 10 or so points they're sitting behind the top 2, but I don't know what it take. I mean, I watched them. Admittedly, it was against RC Oulu, but they looked absolutely frightening. I mean, the front 3 all found the net. You had Petteri Forsell, Timo Furuholm, and yeah, Chalman all chipped in with goals. And then Oyala got the other one. They beat them 4-0, and they look so exciting. But you know, it's just that they seem to that third place seems to be their sort of home. And I don't know what it's going to take for them to try and crack into that top 2. I do think they're an exciting side. I do think they're doing their best to push it, but I don't know. Maybe Mr. Hawkins just needs to spend a bit more dough. I don't know what it is.
Maybe it's inconsistency, Keke. It's similar to, they've got a similar record to Asiko, who are in 4th on 37. They both lost 7 games. They've lost a third of their games. Mark.
I have a pretty convincing. They need a centre back. They just
One word.
That's, yeah,
Centre back.
Centre hyphen
funny.
back. Is that one? That's one. That's one word, right?
Slam them
No,
together.
but I mean, they're really good going forward. They've got a lot of players that I really, really like. They always pose a threat, but they leak goals like, I mean, stupid goals like you wouldn't. I think they were. I mean, look, they were 2-0 down against Asiko inside of 20 minutes when nobody was supporting Asiko. Like they concede goals for fun. It drips in, so I think it's mainly just defensive, the defensive shape.
I was going to say, if again, it's one that's easy to say if Forsell had been there for the season, because they have been playing well. But again, like Mark said, I mean, there's only so much he can do. I mean, he's not going to track back. He doesn't look like a footballer at all, and yet he's come in and made them even more potent up front. But yeah, they just seem. Annan still playing in the midfield.
Yep.
I mean, he was a Hoikor sort of reject 5 or 6 years ago now, I think. But it's it's one of those that they perhaps they need a bit of an overhaul, and maybe they might have the next answer in their reserves or youth team or something. But it's trying to get that blend right that most teams seem to struggle with.
They're one of the club. Sorry.
Henrik in goals reached the ripe old age of 36, I think it is today as well. So he's while he's still there doing a bit of a job. I don't suppose he's no spring chicken, so I suppose it might at 36 says the geezer in his mid-40s.
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I'm no longer in my mid-40s. I think I've slipped into late 40s. So
no, I'm just either.
Yeah. And I think looking at, as I mentioned, Asiko in fourth, 37 points. The word has to be inconsistent. Last 3 games, they drew 2-2 with Inter, which when you're 2-0 up, feels like a loss. Like, it feels like you've thrown it away. Then a few days later to lose 4-0 away to Huuhkajat with a changed team and whatever, but whatever, it doesn't matter. And then at the weekend to win 4-1 at home to Lahti, who we never beat. I mean, it's just all over the place. And so I'd say the word is inconsistent. And I think we've done more than enough talking about off the field incidents at Asiko. So if you don't know what we're talking about, just listen to the previous previous episode or find the 6-minute video that got me in all the local papers around here. So I don't really want to talk about it anymore. Thanks very much. Let's move on to 5th place, Huuhkajat. And I reckon the best summary of this comes from the manager of Huuhkajat, Joaquin Gomez, who posted on Facebook a couple of days ago. He said, "What a journey and an achievement for this group of people, everyone at the club, players, staff, club, fans. Top 6 place secured with 1 game of the regular season still to play. Already the best position for this club in 50 years, still got 6 games to play, and we're in with an opportunity to fight for Europe." Kind of says it all, really, doesn't it? Is that kind of potential that got him linked potentially with coming back to Asiko next season?
I think so. I mean, a lot of... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, all that just makes me even more sad that he won't be there next year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like he's done such a fantastic job, and Huuhkajat are going to find themselves looking for a new manager. So I don't know. I don't know if we like using this word or whatever, but is the project completed there? Do you know what I mean? I feel that side had really had the makings of, is it a gate crashing? They've gate crashed the top 6. Like he says, it's their best finish for 50 years. They've got 5 or 6 games left to see how they can finish in that top division of the league. And and then come next season, it's start all over again, I suppose. Hopefully, all the work that he has done won't just disappear in a cloud of smoke when he goes down the road. But yeah, I don't know. It just makes me a bit tinged with a little bit of sadness knowing what we know that he won't be there. But yeah.
And go on, Rich.
Yeah, no, I was just to say that the way their season's gone is they did what a team in their position should be doing, is that beating the team below them. Their record against the teams in the bottom six is really, really good. It's an interesting blend of players they've got. They had some players who were there before. They've got a few, I think, a couple of like Spanish speaking who played in like the pub teams of Real Madrid's sort of members bar or something and come in there, and a couple of young British players as well. We've got Callum Ward, the goalkeeper's done really, really well. I'm not just saying that because I know his dad listens to the show, but he's kept some really big clean sheets. And Jake Dunwoody, I think, who was a Northern Ireland under-21 international, he's got stuck in as well. He's won a few points for them.
They've got the third best defensive record, Rich.
Yeah.
Goals conceded, 21. Only better than that is Huuhkajat and Cubs at the top.
Yeah. And, you know, we jested at the time that they'd signed Kai Kamara, the MLS legend, but he scored 5 goals in 8 games, I think from a combined distance of about 6 feet. You know, their tactic to him was very blatantly obvious, and it worked. It was get the ball inside the 6-yard box and he'd be on the end of it. And he did really well with that. Again, 37 now, so young and sprightly and youthful. He looks in really good nick. But it'd be interesting to see where that goes next year, because I'm not sure the state of what's a loan player and contracts and stuff and how much of that squad will remain. But yeah, the manager's gone there and done really well. And it's a shame he's only been there for a season.
In sixth place is Ilves. Same points as Huuhkajat at the moment, although of course Huuhkajat have got one more game still to play, so they could end up on 36. Ilves have had a challenging year. They've won 10, lost 9 of their 22 games, and sort of parted ways with their manager as well.
Yeah, but they're unbeaten in 5. So I think, I mean, they if I was to put them in a word, it's just basic. So they've basically just gone back to like, let's just keep everything tight and try to hit on the break, and they do that very well. They've sort of steadied the ship in a sense, but I don't know.
Steadied it just in time to get into the sort of Champions Series, and maybe are playing well enough to be a nuisance to the teams above them.
That's it. It's the recent form that's got them into that position. Like Mark said, you know, they've focused on keeping it tight. I mean, out of those 5 games that they haven't lost, I think 3 of them they won 1-0. So yeah, they've like he said, gone back to basics. I don't see them causing too much trouble for the teams above them, but you know, it's they've got to say mission accomplished after the start they had, that sort of, or the midway point that they was having that made them make that decision to get rid of old Jarkko. You know, it's and then they've sort of pulled it out of the bag in the last 5 games and got the results they needed to finish in the top half.
They've lost some players too. Vertainen's gone to Scotland. Murmur's gone to Lecce, I think it was. Aspergren's gone. And they lost players in the last season as well. So there's a lot of change going on. And Carlio is the manager now. What was his nickname? Was it Bone Crusher or something when he was a player? Something like that. Fulham icon. But he's gone there. And I think, you know, hopefully with a decent pre-season under his belt, and I mean they've always had, or certainly the last few years have had young players coming through who go on to do better things. I'm not going to call them a selling club, but they are a conveyor belt for players. So, you know, fingers crossed if they can get things solid. And there were, from what I've read, some issues behind the scenes when Vis was in charge around money and a bit of motivation. Maybe he'd almost been there a little bit too long, but I don't know. It's one of those that could go either way, but recent form suggests they did the right thing.
In 7th, 1 place below Ilves, slap bang in the middle of the table is FC Lahti.
Point proved.
Can we just agree that the word is predictable and then move on?
Mid-table mediocrity.
Yeah, they are.
Christ.
Sorry to any Lahti fans, we don't have very much.
We don't have any.
We're not sorry. Stop defacing the statues and do anything interesting. Look at us, Yiko. You know what I mean? Up at the top, down at the bottom, sacking managers for fun, Twitter storms, bit of life. Come on, Lahti.
Okay then. In 8th place is Honka. Moving on, Obviously, we're getting down towards the bottom now of teams that haven't had the best of seasons. Honka finished 8th on 26 points.
They're messy. It's a messy team. They're sort of all over the place. They can't string 2 wins together. When you watch them play, either everything clicks and they look brilliant, or most of the time they can't string 2 passes together. So it's quite strange, because I thought Honka would be pretty well equipped this season. I thought they'd be up at the top, sort of knocking roughly where Inter are now, but they just haven't been able to put anything together in terms of consistency this season.
Was they third last year, weren't they? Was it third?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they'd be cracking on this year, but they just sort of fell away.
I mean, obviously, they're a massive name in Finnish football, and as the boys said, like last season wasn't too bad, but prior to that, their recent history hasn't been fantastic, has it? So I mean, yeah, they're pretty much. Obviously, we've got some games to go, but the points tally at the moment, I don't think they'll be panicking too much about finishing down the bottom.
No, but it's a strange situation. I mean, they, in terms of their kind of recruitment structure, they were almost buying to sell this year. They had Juan Alegria, who scored 2 goals in 10 games. I think both of them came in one game. He went off to Rangers for a decent fee. They had Nicholas, forgive my pronunciation, Puhatia. They signed him from TPS for a reasonable fee. Then they've sold him to Bologna for, I think it's up to €1 million. And that is strange, because they've got all this stuff going. It's almost like they're trying to make themselves break even or financially viable by transactions and stuff. But yeah,
it's not a bad way to run a football club, as long as you keep the players long enough to.
Yeah. But yeah, and off the pitch as well, they're really struggling getting good attendances in as well. I mean, they're struggling to break 1,000 for some of their home games. And I know, again, they're on the pitch, they're not doing too well. But I mean, yeah, there's some issues there. I mean, they're obviously doing enough, but coming third and then bottom half the year after, it seems a little bit inconsistent again.
In 9th is Mariehamn with 23 points, and a team that won the league 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, that's quite a long time in football. There's lots of changes go on there, but they've won 7, lost 13 of their 22 games, struggling to score goals as well, as many of the teams down the bottom are. So, from 9 to down to 12th.
If I could sum them up, it wouldn't be in a word, it would be in one player, which is Vahid Hambo, a guy that I've been waiting for maybe a decade for him to be amazing. And last weekend he bagged a hat-trick and looked like a world beater. But he's
9
played
minutes.
Yeah, for 9 minutes. I think he's played 15 times, and that was those 3 were his second, third, and fourth goals of the season. That's all he scored. So it's, I mean, yeah. It's I like them, and I like Hambo, but
there were a lot of issues. I mean, the manager there was a dead duck for months before he was sacked. He was riling the fans up, and bear in mind, this is a very small club in a very small archipelago, tiny little place. And he seemed to get the whole community turned against him, which is
he united them.
He has, yeah. But and as soon as he went, it was like ding dong, he's gone. And I think they won their first game. So I mean, their form has improved massively since he's gone, which says a lot, because they're now 9th. But again, hopefully for them that change hasn't come too late, because again, in our kind of Nostradamus world, after 2 games I think they won and scored 5 or 6 goals, and we were saying, look at them this season, they're going to do really well. And after that, they didn't score for about 800 minutes. And that was here when a colleague and a listener to the show, Johan, gave us a few beers, didn't he? So maybe we gave it to the team. But yeah, they've who knows? I mean, they're still down there, and they'll still need to get a few points, because Haka are looking improved as well.
Only because they recently played Asikor and scored 4 goals. I mean, 4 goals for Haka in 10th. That's almost, it's 20% of their goals for the whole season in one game that I watched and wish I could erase from my memory.
Take notes, Lottie. See, just something.
Yeah,
It's never dull. It's never dull at the Oma SP.
and
I mean, that's another huge name in Finnish football, isn't it? FC Haka. You know what I mean? Like, they just the history and the stature of that club. They deserve to be doing a little bit better than they are. But yeah, it's been a bit of a 1-6, lost 12. So it's not been fantastic.
And just that away game for Asikor Haka the other week, obviously for them, great 4 goals. Friend of the show, Julian, drove down there and managed to pick himself up a nice, juicy speeding ticket on the way home as well.
At least someone got 3 points.
And he's another one who's new. That's right. Yeah, that was the only 3 points coming back to Seinäjoki that night. And he's another one whose quest for a new TV has just been slightly delayed by a month or 2. So true story. Okay, in 11th is AC Oulu. Now, there's been a bit of drama going on around Oulu recently. Obviously, mid-season, they brought in 5 players and they sort of pushed their way up the table. But they had 1 or 2 points at that time. They're now on 18. And they've got a chance of staying up if they can keep that form going and sort of catch Haka or Mariehamn. And, of course, they're probably safe in that playoff position to play the team that finishes second in the division below, Ukkonen. But what's been going on there? You guys were sharing some sort of tweets and whatever, but what's been happening there recently?
Yeah, they sort of, there was some accusations of the players not trying or some outside noises saying that they wasn't putting the right effort in. The manager was getting all sorts of aggro. I think has he gone already, or it's confirmed that he's going?
So he left early on. I think it was Saturday. He resigned, and it turned. I mean, he was out of contract at the end of the season anyway, and the news suggested that he was basically told to jump or be pushed. And there was noise. I think it's Ricardo Duarte, who's the coach of Nistan, who are doing okay in the Ukkonen, is going to replace him for next season. But I think he was on his way out anyway. But he's gone with a payoff rather than the boot. So.
And then in final position, 12th, 8 points from 22 games is Gortepe, and they seem to be they're doomed, aren't they? They're 10 points from even the playoff place, and they've got 5 games left. So they might just break into double figures at this rate.
Well, they're on their 3rd manager now of the season, and they've been absolutely dreadful. That's my word.
Yeah, I think dreadful is probably the right word to end it there, and that's our Veikkausliiga teams, I reckon.
I do have a belated stat for you, because you asked before, is it a low scoring season?
Oh, go on, yeah.
Right, and last season when Rops went down, only Rops out of the whole team scored less than a goal a game. Okay. At this stage of the season, same time when last season was ended, there's 4 teams that have scored less than a goal a game.
Yeah.
So it is a low. I think also at the top, like Huuhkajat don't get close to scoring 2 a game. I think.
No.
So I think it's I think it is we're in a bit of a dry season in the Finnish football.
There's some goals coming next year. We've mentioned Huuhkajat or Helsinki playing in Europe. There's not really that much to say yet. They played their first game. They lost 2-0 at home to Lask. The next game comes tomorrow away to
Alashka.
Yeah, I can't read it on my screen. Sorry. And if you look at the show notes, you'll see wherever you're watching or listening, there's a link to the show notes, and I've just done a clipping of all the fixtures for that group, and they're in Group A in the Europa Conference League.
One thing, just we were talking a little bit about Ukkonen. I did mention at the weekend that TPS they signed Kasper Hämäläinen during the mid-season, and they were having a really bad season up until he signed. They had won 2 of their first 10 games. They hadn't won at home. None of them were at home. When he signed, he's played 13 games. They've won 10 and drawn 2. They're now top. And at one point they were in the bottom 2, maybe certainly bottom 3. And he's come in. They're now top of the. And I mean, it's them. So they'll, whichever division they're in, they play in the playoff, whether it's to go up or stay down. I think they've played in either 5 of the last 6 or 6 of the last 7. So they're certs to be in there, aren't they? Because Rops lost at home, which is surprising at the weekend.
Also, Teps and Oulu. Teps AC Oulu is kind of it's not exactly a derby. It's not the biggest rivalry, but it's always a tasty fixture. I've got a funny feeling that it'll be Oulu Teps for the playoff position.
Mm.
And if we drop down one level lower, Asukor Academy won their Kakkonen division. They'll be back in Ukkonen again next year. So,
are they a bit of a yo-yo because they went down? Is this the first time they've gone up and come back?
Possibly. I mean, I think that season where they finished bottom was quite tough. You know, it is young. There are young players in there,
and a big gap as well.
Yeah, and playing against young players that had come up from Kakkonen, playing against some teams that had just dropped down from the Veikkausliiga. That's a big difference. And I think there was the transition of new manager coming in and young players coming into the first team squad. So I think they were a little bit depleted that season. This year they've had Tero Mantula and also Mehmet Hetemai playing for the academy in Kakkonen. So they've had some oomph behind them, but it's good.
But Hoiko found that this year their second team is in, I think they're bottom or second bottom of Ukkonen, and they've had a couple of hidings. I mean, they've got some really, really good young players there, but they seem to struggle against the kind of experience and that now. So I mean, they're Hoiko. They've got the players at that age, but they're not the seasoned professionals, and they do have a couple. I think Chris James, who was at Cups for quite a while and was a New Zealand international, he's on their bench quite regularly. I don't know if he's on the coaching staff there or something, but yeah, he's there. And some of their players, like is it Tenho is there and Olasanya, they are putting the players there, but there is a big gap. I mean, you're talking Kakkonen is regional and Ukkonen is a national division. It's a big step.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, there's the final whistle for the end of the show, but we've got our following feature. And Rich, this was your suggestion. I'm looking at the Twitter page now, and you can pronounce this and explain who they are.
So obviously with the looking ahead to the upcoming Finland game, there's a website podcast, Zoya Londonsk. They are, I suppose, our Ukrainian counterparts. I guess they do the Ukraine football show podcast, and they do all the bits about Ukrainian clubs in Europe and international football. And yes, I'll be speaking to them ahead of the Finland-Ukraine game. It's on their episode that'll be out in a few days. And yeah, it's interesting because in the European competition, Finnish and Ukrainian clubs have played each other a fair bit in the last couple of years as well. So it's been interesting. And there seems to be, I think, Lucas Rangel, when he left Cups, went to the team that Cups had knocked out in the previous round in that sort of infamous European scouting system. So we'll be speaking to them. And again, if your Ukrainian isn't up to scratch, then if you want to get some snippets ahead of the game in 10 days or so time, then follow them.
Very good. I'll put the link in the show notes there. So that's all done. And that's it. So, listener, thanks for joining us. Remember to follow our Facebook page for content coming directly from us, our podcasts and blogs. You'll also find a link there to our Facebook group, and you can join in with the conversation, start a conversation, even better. We've mentioned it before, Keke's fantastic Instagram page where you'll get score updates and news from Finns performing around the world, and also from Veikkausliiga and the Women's Liiga as well. and then the YouTube channel where you'll find this video and all our previous episodes as well. I'm just going to say to Rich, you've got another little side hustle going on. Would you like to tell people about that?
Is this the other podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. But some of you, I don't know if you listened. I was doing a podcast about 80s movies, which I haven't done for about 6 months now. But a friend of mine, Katrin, and I, we've done a slight detour from that. So we've done 10 episodes about different films, but we're talking about relationships in films. So obviously, with the new Bond film on the horizon, we've talked about a Bond film, but we've talked about him being a pest and a shagger and a philanderer and actually getting smitten for someone. It's been a lot of fun. It's nice to bother the UK charts for something that isn't controversial, like the time I slagged off Octopussy and became public enemy #1. So it's called Don't You Want Me?
Okay, good stuff. Good luck with it. It's actually next in my playlist. So when the latest episode of We Didn't Start the Fire finishes, then which is a podcast going through all the people mentioned in Billy Joel's #1 hit from the 80s, and it's terrific. You're next in my list after that, so I'll give you my review directly to your inbox, whether you want it or not.
Well, always welcome.
and you can follow one or all of us on Twitter. I am at Explore Finland. Rich, where are you?
I'm at Escape to Suomi.
Keke.
I'm at Keke Mülleri.
And Mark.
At FC Suomi.
That's it. Thanks for watching. Until next episode. Sorry, Keke's got something to say.
Yeah, no, just as I mentioned earlier, that we went off to see the Spurs women play and had a nice little chat with Helmarit goalkeeper Tinja-Riikka Korpela. So watch this space. I'm hoping to pin her down for an interview soon. So in your podcast player or in the YouTube channel, hopefully you'll see that interview coming soon. And just another little shout out. We got some nice feedback from Rasmus Schuller. So he's been listening to the show and he gave us a little nod and said, thanks for all we're doing to raise the profile for Finnish football. So thanks to you for that nice feedback, Rasmus.
Until next episode, listener, thanks for joining us. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Banzai.